Last month, real estate expert Linda Craft was here. We were talking about different types of neighborhoods in the Triangle, and the conversation got so good we had to do a part 2. So Linda joins me again now to talk about the other type of homeowners association our viewers need to be aware of, and that's self-managed.
That's right. Well, we kind of started with you can buy in a neighborhood with absolutely no homeowners association at all, and you can have some things that happen.
Yeah.
Self-managed is where you have a group of homeowners that manage without a property management company.
Okay.
And the reason they do that is they're going to be able to save a little bit of money, maybe 10% or so that they would typically pay to the management company. They now hold and do everything themselves. That's all fine if you have a small neighborhood where you don't have a whole lot to manage.
How would you define small?
Well, and it can actually be large with lots of homes, but what do you have to manage? If it's only the front entrance and maybe cutting some grass around the common area, you and I could probably figure out how to hire and do that.
Right.
But if it was a townhome community where you had to budget in the future expenses for replacing all the roofs, or an individual neighborhood where you've got to repave all the streets, how much is it going to cost to repave those streets in 20 years? How much you should put back every month? See the problem?
Right.
And you may start off with a community where you have a board that's so good with that kind of stuff. You know, they're getting estimates, they're doing everything right. The problem is the board changes. So when that person who has all that experience and knowledge steps away, and you and I take over, well, what are we going to do?
Right.
We don't know what we're doing.
Or what if no one steps up? Or someone's forced to step up? Does that happen?
Well, no. Somebody's got to step up. In fact, if no one does, you'll really see it real fast because the neighborhood's going to start to get run down. There's no one calling to remind the landscaper to cut that front entrance or replace that dead bush. Because when you self-manage, you have to do all of that, right? So you have to take care of everything. So it can work and it can be successful, but there's also some risk involved, especially, you know, how much dues do we collect this year to make sure 20 years from now when we replace roofs or we repave asphalt that we've got enough money in the reserves. And you know what happens when you don't have enough money in the reserves?
What?
A special assessment. Nobody likes that because they got to write a big check.
What does that mean?
It means that you as a homeowner or me are going to have to write a check to put into that homeowners association funds to then be able to pay for those future expenses.
I understand embezzlement can be a problem too, and sometimes in self-managed communities.
We hope not. You know, we hope we can trust our neighbors, but think about it. You have your checks every month if you're a townhome community, or once a year, or however it's paid, going directly to a human being that is supposed to deposit it into a separate account.
Right.
So we want to make sure that that money gets into the right account. We should have someone that's checking behind it to make sure that it does. And if they're writing any checks to pay bills at all, we should have 2 signers. And that way you know you've got 2 people in your neighborhood kind of watching over the money.
So when you're shopping for a home, how do you know? Is this something that's written in documents that you see, whether it's self-managed or some other type of management?
That's correct. You should always ask for the restrictive covenants and the bylaws, and that's how you'll find out. And then, of course, get a copy of the budget for the neighborhood to see what the reserves are.
And have you had some success with self-managed neighborhoods? I mean, it's not all bad. I mean, it can work sometimes.
It actually can work, you know, to where you've saved some money, you've kept the dues down. A lot of times, many of the neighbors get in together and they, you know, take care of the front lawn, or they plant plants, and, you know, everything is fine. But you just really want to be careful whenever you have a lot to maintain or big ticket items. That's where you can really have some issues with those reserves.
The self-management is really, it's hard to get people to police themselves.
It's very hard, and that is the hardest thing of all, is that, let's say you decided not to cut your grass, your fence needed to be stained, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I wish you would paint those shutters. It looks horrible. Every time I drive by, ugh, that house, you know, we've all been there.
Yeah.
When I go knock on your door as the president and I tell you need to do those things, we could damage our relationship.
Yeah.
So a lot of times self-managed will tend to procrastinate and not do what they need to do because they don't want the damaged relationships. Where when you have a professional property management company, sometimes it's worth paying for it because they're not about making friends. They're about making sure that your value is protected. They'll send a hard letter. They'll do what they need to do to make sure the houses look very nice.
Wow, this is such good stuff. Linda, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
If you need help buying a home or choosing what type of management is right for you, be sure to reach out to Linda Craft. You can reach her at lindacraft.com or 919-235-0007.